Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're having a lovely day. So today I'd like to read a question that I got and answer it regarding advertising. It's an off-topic request. Sure wish you could do a video on advertising. What works for you, especially since you're opening a new store? What's your ad plan? One of your past videos mentioned results from Facebook weren't worth the money. What works well for local one-shop stores? So the first thing I think is really important to mention here, and this is something that applies far outside of just the community of component level board repair or repair shop stuff, is anytime you're asking somebody for advice who's already successful, you should be very wary of the advice that you get for one specific reason. I started doing this kind of stuff in 2008 and 2009. You're asking the question in 2022. The world of 2022 is vastly different from the world of 2008 and 2009 when I started promoting my business. So if you try to do the same things now that I was doing back then, it may not work for you and it may not actually be the right thing to do at all. Even if you're dealing with somebody who's worth billions of dollars, who is far more successful than you are, the path that they took to success in 1997 or 2010 or 2015 may be completely irrelevant to you in 2022. So if you try to follow that advice, you may find that it does absolutely nothing for you. I think it's important to focus on some basic principles rather than focusing on these specifics. That being said, I'll go over it. So in the absolute very beginning, in the very early days, I would post ads to 4 different websites: Craigslist, Backpage, Kijiji, classifiedads.com, and I think a site called newyork.olx.com. So classified ads, Craigslist, Kijiji, OLX, Backpage. I'm old enough to remember back before Backpage was just essentially a porn site. All these sites in a round robin fashion where I would post a very specific service. So I wouldn't just say MacBook repair. I would do something like A1181 MacBook screen repair, and then it would actually say what the price is and how much time it takes. So you would have all the information for that repair. So instead of trying to go for a broad keyword like MacBook repair, I would say A1181 MacBook screen repair in New York City. Very, very specific. And what I would do is I would give people the information that I thought was the most relevant immediately based on my conversations with people who were my customers. So what I would do is I would go over their concerns. So over here, okay, is this my model? So I would show a picture of it, which obviously doesn't work anymore because I pulled this HTML file that's almost, if not more than 10 years old at this point, out of a backup that I had, and I didn't save the picture. How does this work? Where do you get the parts from? Is this an original? People were concerned about that, so I would explain it all, and I would even explain here's where other people are buying the parts from, and I would explain that because we have them in stock, it only takes 20 minutes. We're not going to say it takes 3 days because I have to order it. What kind of warranty does it come with? This is the warranty. This is a real business. You have credible feedback. I would point to a Wall Street Journal article, and then also all of my feedback that I had on eBay at the time. So what most people do when they advertise is they just write what they want to write. And this is a big mistake. What you need to do is ask your customer base, what were the problems you had when you called other people? What caused you to say yes to us? Figure out what your customers' concerns are. Jim Cam talks about this and start with no. Never present. What you should be doing is answering these specific concerns that your adversary has, rather than just presenting and saying, we're authorized with 30 years experience and are located in the best location, man. Because they may not care about your authorizations, and they may not care about where you're specifically located, or that they may care about something else. So what I think is very important is figuring out what the highest concerns are of your customers, and also what separates you from everybody else doing the same thing, and making sure that that is really something that you drive home in your ad. And if you do a well enough job of that, you could have an ad that looks like shit, like a logo that was made in Microsoft Paint with jagged text and horrible HTML that you put together in eBay's listing HTML editor. Oh God, I can't believe I'm showing this shit to people. This is embarrassing. And actually get somewhere. And when it comes to SEO, if you start with a really broad term, it's going to be really difficult to do well. However, if you start with a very, very, very specific term on a specific page, it's more likely that you'll be able to rise through the ranks a little bit quicker. Again, A1181 MacBook screen repair in New York, it's a location, it's a model, it's everything's in there. So it's kind of easy to eventually to rise for that than it is for a really general search term. If you just start trying to go for the general search term, that can be very difficult. Another thing that I talked about damn near 10 years ago when it comes to soliciting positive reviews for your business is you are going to have to actually ask. But one of the things you should do is avoid this whole shit where I'll give you $5 off if you leave me a good review. That's simping, and simping, regardless of whether it's your personal life or your business life, is always frowned upon, and it's not going to get you what you want. Simping is not something that is unique to romantic relationships. If you go out there and you look, I guarantee you will find reviews of your competitors where it says, "Oh, great experience. They even gave me $30 off to leave this review." And once you have one review that says that for your business and other people read that shit, they discount every other review that they read. You have instantly lost trust. If you have 100 5-star reviews and even one of them says that shit, that discredits your entire review page. Don't simp. It's not worth it. So what you should do is go out of your way to give the customers the best experience humanly possible. So if somebody says, I really need the data back that's on this drive, I really need this stuff as soon as you can get it to me, I have a presentation tomorrow, and you say it usually takes 1 day for this type of data recovery, if you stay late that night and you get all the data back and you call the person and say, hey, it's done. We're usually closed. I'm still going to be here for the next hour if you want to come pick it up. You wait there, you give it back to them, and while they're in that moment of saying, you told me it wouldn't be ready till tomorrow, and you're like, yeah, I know you needed it, but I got it to you tonight. By the way, if you want to, here's a link on my card where you could leave a review. We're new in the area, and I'd really appreciate it. Most people in that situation will be more than happy to leave you a 5-star review. Do not solicit reviews by simping. Do not try to solicit reviews by doing the bullshit Groupon business model. I've talked about that in other videos that I've done on this channel, where people will think that the way to getting a good reputation, the way to getting good reviews and new customers is by using Groupon. Groupon sucks. Like all these types of discount shit where you'll do work for like 50 or 75% off. These people never leave reviews. They're never going to come back. And if anything, they're actually more picky customers than the customers that you get if you are just soliciting them off of the street. Like it's a bad way to do it. So you should try to solicit positive reviews by offering an above average, insane experience that you know is going to impress them. Tell them, this is what I'm going to do for you, and then do this for them. Treat them like royalty, and then say, by the way, you don't have to do it, but I'd appreciate it. I just moved into the area. Nobody knows who I am. If you're able to tell others about your experience, and you give them a card that has a way for them to tell others about their experience. It could be something like rossmangroup.com/review. They go to it and it'll automatically direct them to your Google Maps page or your Yelp page or something like that. You're not going to get reviews if you tell people it will be done in 2 to 4 business days and you get it done in 2 to 4 business days. You will get good reviews if you tell somebody who is crying it will be done in 2 to 4 business days and you finish it in a day. If you want to really get your word out there, you're going to have to provide an experience that actually gets people talking, that gets people saying, wow, I really do have to tell everybody that I know how amazing the experience I had here because it's that good. And that's not something that's going to just happen from offering an average everyday experience. I'm going to read from a blog that I wrote back in 2013. There are 2 of them. The first blog, we have never paid for sex, Facebook likes, or reviews. When checking businesses on Yelp, look at the ratio of reviews to filtered reviews. If you see 50 reviews and 200 filtered, it can be sketchy. If you see 50 reviews and 10 filtered, it's better. One of the few things I will brag about in our favor is the genuine nature of our reputation. Knock on wood, 5 years in, we've never paid for a like or review. F that noise. In all seriousness, this is a later blog entry from that year. Stop suing review sites and work on your business. It's obvious for anyone that follows my posts that I'm not a fan of Yelp elite culture. I don't subscribe to the idea of armchair connoisseurs who self-appoint themselves to the position of judge, jury, and executioner of local businesses. At the same time, my heart pumps piss for crybabies who blame online reviews for their business failing. This article is such a bunch of self-pity inspiring nonsense from business owners who suck at what they do. People who subscribe to this don't understand technology and don't understand customer service. You see, we all deal with the same pool of assholes. The assholes who leave bad reviews because you won't perform a service for free will spread their disease everywhere. Do you really think there is only one asshole in town and that this one asshole will only visit your business? Are you so far off the deep end that you are just deluded by your sob story that everyone is out to get you and only you? The reality of having a business in the center of Manhattan is that we occasionally attract asshole customers who post bullshit reviews. However, so does Dr. Brendan, so does Laptop MD, so does L2 Computer, so does BNY Tech. Every local business has to deal with the same pool of New York City assholes, because the same pool of New York City assholes will come to all of us. We all get slandered by nonsense. It's on all of our review pages. As a result, it's not going to be a deciding factor for most people. All of our businesses have 1 or 2 or 3 miserable reviews from people who conjured up everything they wrote, and since we all have a few of those, they cancel each other out. Customers who are discerning enough to do online research and read reviews are not idiots. Start thinking better of your client base. Remember how your first grade teacher could tell when one person did everyone's book report? Yelpers are the same way. If the same review is posted by the same person 3 times, with 2 or 3 words swapped around in the same day, Yelp readers will see it for the bullshit that it is. The same way that your 4th grade teacher did your book report, you paraphrased from SparkNotes, been there, done that. Business owners who want good reviews must learn the difference between happy and content customers. You want your reviews to change? Start impressing people. Start doing more than saying it'll be done in 2 weeks for $300. Go above and beyond. Break your back enough that content customers become happy customers. You think you're making customers happy, but often you're not. You're making them content. People who are happy will actually put off watching their Seinfeld rerun or rolling their evening joint to sit there for 5 minutes verifying their new Yelp account or rave about how awesome you are. People who are content will go, "Oh, thank you," then forget about you the second they leave. You did what they asked, and they said thank you. This just isn't enough to motivate people to choose to spend 5 minutes of their life helping your reputation after they've received what they've already paid for. You need to provide more if you intend to compete with everything else this person can be doing with their spare time, other than raving to their friends, family, Google, and Yelp about how amazing your business is. I am tired of hearing business owners say, "But that's not fair to us," or "It would be a nightmare to offer X service in Y time frame." Fine, keep thinking like that. I'll keep breaking my back doing that work that, quote, isn't fair to my time, or I may actually risk working 5 minutes outside what I billed a client for. You don't have to do that. You also don't have to have a good online reputation. I'll take that from you. You're welcome to Google us. It seems to be working. And don't stand there and tell me you've been doing that. Don't tell me you've been in business for 5 years and can't bum one good review. Seriously? Come up with some promotion or some service that will make people happy enough to leave reviews. To be clear, I'm not reading from here anymore. When I say promotion, I mean actually offering better service in a particular time period than what you were before. I'm not talking about simping. No simping. Every dime you spend on an attorney, every second you spend in court is a waste. This is time and money that you could have put into improving your business, and you're spending it crying to online journalists. I do not see the sky falling when I receive a bogus bad review because I understand the reality of social media. If it's not the norm, it'll be buried under the truth in no time. I don't put time and effort into suing the douche who made something up. I put time and effort into impressing the people who walk into our business so that the negative sinks to the bottom. If I'm doing my job right, that's where the negative belongs. I'm very direct, and I do not come off as the traditional, consummate professional. We're not the cheapest. I wear a t-shirt to work. We have no gimmicks. A very plain-looking store in contrast to many slick-looking competitors. Yet somehow we maintain an amazing online reputation, that at the time of this writing, at least. My point is not to brag with this statement. Rather, I want to get across the point that if I can do it, so can you. Put down the lawsuit and take charge of your business. And I stand behind what I wrote in this. I wrote this when I had less than about, this was when I had about 100 subscribers on YouTube, so you couldn't really make the argument back when I got 3 views a video that my online reputation was as high as it was because of YouTube. It was because we have a culture here at this company of trying to make sure that the people that walk in are incredibly impressed with the service that they received. And it's something that we continue into the future. The third thing is, in addition to the internet advertising, which by the way, when I'm saying Craigslist, Backpage, Kijiji, OLX, it should be very obvious at this point that my advertising stuff is completely and utterly obsolete at this point. But outside of whatever your internet advertising is going to be, you are going to have to do some actual, real, honest-to-God advertising. So one of the things that I used to do is I used to walk into the Apple store on 9th Avenue and 14th Street, and I actually, because there were so many customers that would tell me about how horrible their experiences were at the Apple store. So I forget if it was H&M or Uniqlo, but I went to H&M or Uniqlo and I bought a polo shirt that seemed like it was a similar color to Apple's, but wasn't the same color, but was like a similar enough color. And while I saw people were waiting for the Genius Bar for their appointment, if they looked pissed off, I'd say, "Hey, what's going on?" Be like, "Oh, like the backlight, every time I move the screen back and forth, this light goes, oh my God, it's driving me crazy." And the person on the phone said it could cost $800 to fix, but it's just and I would say, "Okay, here's the thing. There's a little wire that goes from the motherboard to your screen inverter. The inverter is the thing that takes the low DC voltage and turns it into a high AC voltage needed for the fluorescent backlight in your computer. And this wire is kind of flimsy. Sometimes it can go bad. It's like a $5 wire. It's a real pain in the ass to get there and replace it. They don't make it easy to get the clutch cover off and everything on this model, so it's going to be like $75 to replace it. By the way, I don't actually work here. They're going to tell you it's $300 to $600 for a screen assembly, but if you want me to do it for you, here's my card. Have a nice day. And you keep it moving. Now, a lot of people are going to be really nervous to do shit like this. They're going to think, oh my God, I can't do that. I can't approach people. Oh, I'm scared. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to learn this fucking skill anyway. If you want a chance of finding a significant other, having relationships, having friendships, whether they are romantic or otherwise, you are going to have to be able to talk to people that you don't already know. It's a skill set that you're going to have to learn. And it's one of those things where you could either pay the bill up front or you could pay the bill every single day for the rest of your life as a miserable, lonely fuck. It's something you're going to have to learn. I'm a weird dude. I'm fairly certain I'm on the Asperger's or autism spectrum based on what I've heard from therapists in the past when it comes to socialization. I'm not a person that's like completely understands all of the nuances of human interaction. And I was a shy kid growing up. It's one of those things where it's like, all right, well, I'm not getting business the way I usually get business, so it's either I do something new or go back to Model Sporting Goods. And I was not about to go back to Model Sporting Goods on Staten Island, Store 62, and go back to putting price tags on basketballs for $6 an hour. Fuck that. So I donned my blue polo shirt, I went to the Apple store, and I looked for people that look pissed off. And here's the thing, when you go to the Apple store and you see people waiting for the Genius Bar, a lot of the time they're going to be pissed off because the support there sucks. So it was actually fairly low-hanging fruit. It wasn't something that I did for very long, and admittedly, 95% of the time I got told, go away, I'm not interested. However, the 5% of the time that somebody's like, took my card, I usually got some money. And here's the thing. These jobs that I were doing, they had profit margins of anywhere from $60 to $200. So I didn't need it to work a lot for it to be worth my while to be doing that. So, if I did that, let's say an hour a week, and I just went to different stores so I didn't get, picked out by security fast enough. If I did that at enough different places for enough time, that's an additional $200 to $300 a week. And you may think, looking at this now, additional $200 to $300 a week, that's not worth it. Well, it was worth it to me back then. An additional $200 to $300 a week was more than my rent. So that was fairly worth it to me. And again, this is not stuff that you have to do indefinitely. You don't have to stay up an extra 2 to 4 hours at work just to impress a customer indefinitely. You really only have to do it long enough to have the best reviews in your area. And then once you do, the shit kind of writes itself. So at this point, if you go to Google Maps and search for MacBook repair over here, even in spite of the fact that I have a lot of bullshit fake reviews, if you just search for it, we show up first. So, and also 1,492 reviews. Like this place is 302. I actually know the guy that runs this. Tiger is pretty cool. I never met these people, but they seem cool on the internet. 332, 4.7, 4 reviews, 4 stars, 9 reviews, 3.8 stars, 5 reviews, 4.2, Mike's Tech Shop, 221, 3.6, Apple Bear. But like this shit, like once you get to a point where you're up there, you don't have to do this stuff anymore. It's not like, again, I could, and I probably would make a little bit extra if I do, but it's not the most worthwhile way to spend my time. But in the very, very beginning, if you are just going out there and you have no name for yourself, nobody knows who you are, you're going to have to do some shit like that in order to try to get somewhere. I remember walking into offices when I used to have more hair and better hair and it was slicked back and I still had a Staten Island kind of Guido-ish accent, and I was a health insurance salesman for Atlanta's Healthcare. This lasted for like 45 minutes. I'm a horrible health insurance salesman. But I remember walking into these places and then they would say, like, what are you selling? And I would say with the accent and the slick suit, drugs and protection. And every now and then I got a laugh. I didn't sell any health insurance, but I got a laugh, which is, again, better than getting told, go fuck yourself, get out of my office. If you're new at something and nobody knows who you are, you're going to have to go out there. And again, at the end of the day, you may say, I don't want to do that. I don't want to, actually have to talk to real people. I don't want to touch grass to get business. It's a skill you're going to have to learn anyway. Again, it's one of those things you're going to have to learn anyway. You could either pay the cost today or you could pay it every single fucking day for the rest of your life when you're a miserable fuck that has no friends, no significant other, no nothing, because you're incapable of talking to other people. It's something you're going to have to learn how to do. You're going to have to be able to walk up to somebody that you don't know, that you haven't met, and be able to say, hi, how are you, etc., and so on and so forth. And again, like this actually worked for me. Again, it only worked 5% of the time, but that 5% of the time that it worked was enough for me to make a few extra $100 a week. And listen, back in 2008 and 2009, a few extra $100 a week, that was the jackpot to me. When I worked at Modell Sporting Goods, I made between $400 to $600 a month. And that was to stand up all day long, unpack boxes, deal with a douchebag assistant and regional manager, have customers walk in and treat you like shit. So like a few extra $100 a week, like I was high on the hog with that money. And again, once you impress those customers, and this is also part of the incentive structure, once you impress those people enough that you start getting good reviews, you won't have to do that shit anymore, which is actually part of the incentive structure to do really amazing work in the beginning, because you want to impress that customer enough that they leave you a 5-star review so that you don't have to walk around and, give out pull tab signs and flyers and walk into stores and talk to their customers and weird stuff like that anymore. So that's what I would say there. Make sure, so with your advertising, always try to point your advertising to your customers' pain points. In my case, my customer's biggest pain point was that most of the other places in the area would not have the part in stock, or they would use a knockoff where the screen color looked really weird. I would say I use the exact same one that came in your computer. I have the exact part in stock for your computer with a picture of it. This ad is for your specific model. It is not a general ad. It is for your specific model. It may look like it was made in Microsoft Paint. It may look like it was made in eBay's HTML editor, but you know what? It didn't matter. It answered the customer's questions. How long? I don't want to leave my stick for a few days. It takes 10 minutes. I want to know the price up front. Parts and labor total, $160. Again, they were placed. This was back in the day when the screens weren't glued into the computer. This is also back in the day where you could get a screen for $50 though. Yo, how times have changed. Now it's like $200 to $300 just to buy a screen, and they're glued into the computer. Like, looking at my old ads is so fucking depressing. But anyway. Many other places would give you a price like $140, which is cheaper than me, but that was the part only. When you showed up in person, they're going to tell you, oh, you want us to do it for you. Well, that's going to be an extra $150. So I'd say parts, labor total, you got the model number, you have the location, what machine is covered, how does it work, where do you get the parts from, is this a real business, feedback. Like I answered all of their questions in a very easy to see way, even if my font and everything, ability to put together everything looked like absolute dog shit. I would rotate it around a bunch of different websites. Again, if you have a website, it may be best to have a bunch of pages for all the different models and services you offer, because it is easier to rank for something ultra specific than it is to rank for something general. Now, at this point in time, again, because I've grown a lot, if I just search for MacBook repair in New York City on Google, even though I am not logged in, this particular browser, I do not allow to have Google or any Google services set cookies. I have a separate browser I use anytime I use any Google shit where I have to sign in. This browser over here, like I literally show up first on Google over here, but this is not something that would have started. Like when you start out, you're not going to just show up for a general search term. You'll be lucky if you could show up for MacBook, something like this. Like you'll be lucky if you can show up for some shit like this. That's going to be, it's going to be easier to show up for those types of terms. And above all, make sure that you get out there, talk to people, and also make sure that you are putting in the best possible effort. When you solicit reviews from your customers, this video is going on 10 years old now. I uploaded it in May of 2013. It only has 1,000 views, but I stick by this video today. Make sure that every single customer coming into your business has a 5-star experience, even if it means that you have to go the extra mile. If you don't go the extra mile, there's going to be no reason for them to leave a review. And don't simp. Even if you're just starting out, never simp. Don't tell people it's $160, but if you leave a review, I'll make it $140. Not only are they unlikely to really leave the review, but you're not going to feel good about it. The review's not going to look real. It's just don't simp. Don't simp in your business life or your personal life. You will regret it, my son. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.